Have you ever been torn between whether you should spend time with your family, whether you should be working with your business, whether you should be doing more of this or more of that? Have you ever been torn between several different tasks? Have you ever wondered how you should prioritize or how you should set aside time for different things that you want to do so that you can achieve all of your life goals? If that's the case for you, then this is the video for you, because today we'll be talking about how to prioritize as an entrepreneur. So I'm really excited to share this presentation with you. So let's get started. So before we get started, I want to introduce myself. My name is Tiffany Domina, and my website is howtoentrepreneur.org, and the mission there is to help you grow your business from idea to full-time income and from full-time income to enterprise. So I help lots of entrepreneurs to start their businesses, especially online, using affiliate marketing. And I've seen a lot of people who start out with very little idea of how to start or run a business, and something like prioritization is very, very, very important. A lot of times we start our businesses and we have a background in, maybe we're stay-at-home moms or stay-at-home dads, or we have a job and all of these different things going on, and it can be confusing to decide what should you sacrifice from which area and put into another. So this video is really going to help with that. So now, as a disclaimer, this is a topic that I plan to dive a lot more deeper into, because it's such an important topic for business and for personal fulfillment and to achieve your personal or your business goals. So we'll be discussing time management routines and how to set goals to improve yours and improve your overall fulfillment. In future videos, I'd like to discuss more on specific scheduling options and more on prioritization and time management. So if you're interested in that, then definitely leave a comment in the description box below and subscribe to this channel so you can be notified when I publish new videos. So there are lots of possible tasks to do when you're starting an online business, and there can be so many things to do. It can get really confusing. Like I said, there's social media, and there's Facebook groups, there's Pinterest pages, there's LinkedIn, there's Quora, there's YouTube, and there's so many different things that you could try. And then there's people who will post things like, I made $10,000 off of Pinterest, or I made $100,000 off of Google search engines. And it can be really easy to deviate from one thing to the other, just chasing after outcomes. And so it's really important to prioritize based off of your goals, your values, your skills, and that's why we're talking about this today. So there's so many ways to start. There's lots of different advisors, lots of different directions and things that they'll tell you to do. There's lots of different tactics that you can do, lots of different ways you can post, paid or organic, and different audiences to target, and so many things you can do. And you can even scale or stack methods. And there's different business models. But if you try to do too many things at one time, then you end up being a jack of all trades and a master of none. And nobody really wants to be like Jack, do you? I mean, we want to master something so we can really reach the apex of our potential. And so that's why we're having this conversation. So when people are starting their businesses, I just try to approximate how much time they actually have. Lots of the people that I work with, the startup entrepreneurs that I work with, they have 20 hours or less. They have jobs, they have families, they have hobbies, they have other responsibilities, they have friends, they have a social life. They have so many different things that they like to do. And so I would venture to say that most startup entrepreneurs start with 20 hours or less. But the startup entrepreneurs who are good managers of that can actually grow a business, have a personal life that's fulfilling, and that's what we're striving for. So time is a reflection of your values. We each hold certain things in high value, and we devote time as a reflection of that. So if we have a high value for our income, then we may spend a decent amount of our time in order to make money. If we have a high value for our family, then we would spend time to show them that we care about them and we want to spend time with them. So if your spouse is valuable to you, you could probably tell with your schedule. And if your eating is healthy to you, then you could probably tell with your schedule. Unfortunately, making money can sometimes throw off our values because we choose an income source that compartmentalizes our lives and it subtracts from our other values. And as a result, we can feel lots of discontentment. So I've worked with lots of people who have jobs and they feel like they've sacrificed so much so that they can work at this job. But really, the job is providing that income for them. And it's taking a larger percentage of their time than they would like. And so that's where you feel that discontentment when the amount of time that's being devoted to something is inconsistent with your values. So the next question I would like for you to think about is, what's your center? You can be family-centered, you can be work-centered, you can be church-centered, you can be community-centered. And if you're family-centered, you might be a mom or a dad who just wants to spend all of his time with his kids, with his wife, with his family, with his parents, with his brother, sister. And you just spend the monopoly of your time on that center because that is the most important thing to you. You could be work-centered where they might call you a workaholic. You spend the majority of your time working because the outcome of your work, the reputation you have from being a worker, all of these things is really important to you. You can be church-centered where maybe you have people look at you as being a really spiritual person, so you are really devoted to ministry or something like that, and it can become your center. And you can also be community-centered where you just really value helping out in your community, you're volunteering a lot, you're working a lot at different charitable places and doing various things so that you can help out in the community. Or you can be self-centered where you're spending all your time on your nails and your hair and everything like that so that you make yourself feel valuable and have a self-esteem. Now, any of these can happen, and they can even have seasons and change around and lots of things like that. But it's really important that instead of having a center that is external, like family, work, even church or community or all of these things that might be good in proportion, it's really good to not let any of them to become a monopoly and instead to be principle-centered. So when you're principle-centered, you're focused on having integrity, you're focused on having values and on being a full-body person. So you're focused on not just one area of life, family or work or church or community. You're focused on the full picture and on being impactful in all of these areas and on making a harmony that works. And that's what we're striving for. So there's often this tug between making money versus staying balanced. And this happens to a lot of entrepreneurs because we're focused on providing for our families, we're focused on providing for our employees and all of these things. And so sometimes we can get off balance where we're so focused on making money that we choose between people, lifestyle, and lifelong aspirations. And as a result, we look for ways where the balance is more in sync. But regardless of where we go, there's a huge role that we play. So sometimes we can be buying into courses or buying into books or different things like that because, and it might tell us that this is a way you can make money or that's a way you can make money and you can have this lifestyle where you live on the beach and you don't have to do much. But all of these strategies really may not work in that way. They just show clips of the full picture, and it's fragmented. And what really needs to happen is internal, and it has to be a decision that we make to stick to our values and to find ways to leverage our skills in the marketplace so that we can still apply this center and the principles of and our values into our time. So the same imbalance can happen again if we don't address this personal responsibility we have to keep this harmony. Then the same imbalance can happen again. So now let's say you fix the making money issue and you're at an income you're really comfortable with. Your business is at a revenue you're really comfortable with. Your employees are getting paid well if you decide to have them. And now you have your own online business working and you're getting a good income, but you had to buckle down, post lots of content, and you gained 100 pounds in the process. Would you be happy with that changing your health as a sacrifice for making money? Let's say you had to tell your family to give you your space and they get frustrated from not being with you, so your relationships got on the rocks. Would you be happy making money with unhappy family members and friends? Or let's say you made several Facebook accounts under various different names, you mislead lots of people, and you felt like an ethical jerk, but you made money. Would you be happy with any of these three situations? Now, for most people, they wouldn't be happy. You may be happy temporarily with this imbalance, but ultimately, most people want success in more than one area. Most people want to make money. We want to have good and growing relationships and to feel like we're a part of something bigger. We want to have good health, maybe even six-pack abs or lots of attraction. We want people to be attracted to us, maybe our husbands, our wives, a girlfriend, boyfriend that you like. You want them to be attracted to you physically. We want to feel like we're helpful, like we've accomplished something, and we have inner peace about what we've been able to give to the world. We want to be able to have fun and have good memories, and also to have security and feel like it can't be taken away. So maybe by establishing wealth, having a high net worth, all of those different things. These are things that most of us want to be successful in. And these goals are achievable, but it takes a lot of intention. So good time management makes us the best version of ourselves. Being principle-centered and good time managers makes us the best version of ourselves in the areas of health, finances, business, spiritual, financial, community, and recreation. Now, I kind of repeated finances twice, but ignore that. But it's tough to come up with a harmony, which is why you keep testing. You write down your values, you write down what's important to you, and if you haven't yet, you can stop by How to Entrepreneur, and I have the life plan download that you can stop by and download it for free. I can leave a link up to it in the description box, but basically you download the life plan and you go through and decide what are your values, who do you prioritize, and what do those accounts look like? How much have you invested in those relationships? How much have you taken out of those relationships? And what do you need to do in order to make those relationships how you want them to be? Whether that's your health, whether that's your finances, whatever those goals are. So that my life plan download can really help you. And I also try to give you more resources or more nudges through email to help you get through planning your life, because they say a lot of people plan their vacation, but they don't actually plan their life and how they're going to check off all of those bucket list items before they get out of here. So definitely stop by and check out the My Life Plan download at How to Entrepreneur and go over that exercise. So the Four Quadrants is also really helpful for prioritization. In his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which I actually have right here, by Stephen Covey, it talks about 4 quadrants. He did a statistical study to prove that successful people spend their time mostly in one quadrant. So while our current time allocations may be different, maybe we're currently spending our time one way, we can set goals to change our habits and to reallocate our time so that we can have a schedule that looks more like what we would like and what would make us successful in multiple areas of life. So let's take a look at the 4 quadrants really quick. I want to show you what they look like. So, let me move this over so you can see it in the camera. Can you see that? Actually, let me pull it up on my computer. Hold on. Okay, so here is the 4 quadrants. And as you can see, you have urgent and important up here in quadrant 1. You have urgent and not important here in quadrant 2. You have not important and urgent in quadrant 3, and not urgent and not important in quadrant 4. So important and not urgent. Sorry if I said quadrant 2 wrong. I think I did. So the activities that are in quadrant 1, all of these quadrants I want to talk more about, but I just wanted you to see how this quadrant breaks, how the 4 quadrants break down, and you can actually take a look at this just by Googling it, and you can see this more after you check out this presentation. So let's keep going. So, and they're important. It's things like crises, it's pressing problems, deadline-driven projects. It's putting out fires, in summary. So in quadrant 1, these are things that are like important right now. You have to do them. You can't ignore them. And then you have quadrant 2 activities, which are urgent and not important. These are things like prevention, like relationship building, like recognizing new opportunities, planning, and recreation. So then you have quadrant 3 activities. These are urgent activities, but they're not important. So these are interruptions, distractions, email notifications, phone calls, social media activities, trending stuff, things that just pop up that you decide to do just because everybody else is doing it. This is quadrant 3. And then finally you have quadrant 4, and this is not urgent and not important. This is busy work. This is time wasters, pleasure activities. This is binging on Netflix or binging on YouTube for things that aren't actually producing a better future for you. This is binging on video games or investing long amounts of time in activities that doesn't build towards your future goals. So not urgent, not important, just having pleasure. You know, it could be just eating cake, you know, just long periods of time at the ice cream shop. I mean, it's okay to do quadrant 4 activities, but you want to make sure that the allocated percentage of these activities is in proportion with your goals. So, can you guess where most successful people spend their time? They spend their time in quadrant 2, in the activities that are important, but that are not urgent. So, these activities include planning, they include prevention, they include recreation, they include relationship building, and because they're prepared, and because they plan ahead, and because they do things before there's a fire, then they don't end up in as many urgent situations. Of course, there are unforeseen circumstances, but you can make the unforeseen circumstances a minority of your time when you have good routines and rituals in place that have a high focus on quadrant 2 activities. So I wanted to repeat this because I said earlier that good time management makes us the best version of ourselves. So in the areas of health, finances, business, spiritual, community, and recreation, we can be the best version of ourselves when we actually are intentional about how we spend our time and about how we prioritize our day-to-day tasks. It can be tough to make this balance, but we can definitely do it. So in order to stay out of tasks that are urgent, we have to put our emphasis on prevention in these areas. And so we don't want to wait until the car is broken down because we didn't get the oil change. We don't want to wait until things are going haywire to actually do something about it. And that's what we're saying here. So here are some examples of prevention activities. In terms of your health, you can plan preventative appointments. Maybe you have your lab work that just checks and makes sure everything is where it should be. You have immunizations, you have exercise, you have healthy eating, you have education that you can do to make sure you're knowledgeable about healthy options, healthy eating, proper exercise. All of these things can help you to avoid quadrant 1 urgent healthcare outbreaks. Then you have finances. So in order to stay out of like repossession, foreclosure, and having all of these financial issues that are quadrant 1 outbreaks, then you would have to do tasks like budgeting or studying personal finance or investing or getting around personal finance mentors, studying some of the blogs that are in the personal finance space where you can see people are having really good results, downloading budgeting apps. I've showed YNAB before, I've showed Every Dollar before. Those are 2 really good personal finance apps that you can take a look at. In terms of business, in order to avoid a business that's not making the money that you want, or a business that that gets customers but dissatisfies them, in order to avoid closing your doors, or all of these quadrant 1 things that can happen to you in business, you want to make sure you're doing a business plan, that you're researching, that you're finding role models, that you're testing and you're optimizing. Maybe you're getting in masterminds, you're taking classes, you're continually learning. And these are things that can help you to avoid quadrant 1 situations. When it comes to spiritual, a lot of people go through things like depression and things like, they have these traumas and things that last for long periods of time, or they feel unworthy, or they have lots of esteem issues, and they have just discontentment overall and lack of fulfillment. And there are certain things that you can do to help with that as well. You can do more journaling, you can do more praying, you can do more giving, you can read the Bible, you can get in community groups where people are supporting one another. I personally like church for that reason, but there are other groups that people get into that help them feel that spiritual fulfillment in addition to something like church. You can also have a gratitude practice where maybe you decide to wake up and write down a list of everything you're grateful for. You can also do a vision board where you can stay on target and focused on what that grandiose goal or vision is that you have for your life. All of these are spiritual practices that can be helpful to balance out your life. as far as community, you can get involved in your community, you can give back, you can volunteer, you can take care of things in your community. Like maybe you see somebody who's littering really bad, and you can help to resolve things like that, and resolve to yourself that you are not going to be a contributor to those type of patterns, because this is your community and you take pride in it. You can also give back by encouraging the community workers. I've seen people who like to do things like take cookies to the police officers, or pay for a meal for the military, or give a gift to the school teachers on holidays. There's various things that you can do just to show support of the people who serve in our communities, and so that we can give back and show appreciation. And then there's also recreation. And recreation is just having fun. And you have to have those times where you just unleash and you just have some fun and explore things that you haven't done before. And you can develop your creativity through recreation. I know I've taken things like swim lessons and dance classes and art classes and all kinds of things just as recreation activities, just to unleash that creativity. And you can take things like karate or biking or whatever, do a triathlon, whatever it is that you want to do to really harness that sportsmanship and that competitiveness that you could have, that challenges you to be a better version of yourself. You can also spend time with family and friends. There's so many ways that you can do recreation, but these are examples of preventative activities that you should have in your schedule. These preventative activities should monopolize instead of quadrants 1, 3, and 4. So let's keep going. So quadrant 1, urgent activities include things like the car breaks down, you're in the hospital for a diet-related reason or something that you could control, you're on the verge of divorce, you're being threatened with foreclosure or repossession, your kids are behavioral to the point of interfering with your success, and the list can go on and on. And I want to make sure to say that urgent activities happen to everyone at some point. We all get in quadrant 1 at some point, and we all can even have seasons where it becomes a monopoly of our day. But it's really important to notice that and to see that, you know what, like I'm spending a lot of time on this car breaking down over and over again, and as a result of this, I'm spending most of my time in the shop. Like it's important to notice these things. It's important to notice that you're spending a lot of time going to the hospital because of this diet-related illness, and decide to make a change and to pivot, or maybe you're spending a lot of time arguing with your spouse or with your kids or with whoever, and it's causing you to monopolize your time with quadrant 1 activities. Then you have to look at your current allocated percentage of time on these tasks and decide to make a change. So you don't want to live months or years where you're going from the car broke down to bad lab work to husbands threatening to leave, and things are all falling apart, because at some point you really want to break this cycle. It is unhealthy to stay like that for long periods of time, and that's really where quadrant 2 comes in. So these are quadrant 2 activities. This is budgeting, you're helping people for profit. It could be a job, it could be your business, it could be your side hustle. It could be real estate or any other type of investment that you're spending your time on that's for profit. And you could help people that's not for profit. You're helping people for free, using the skills, the knowledge, whatever it is that you have, so that people can get to the next level. This is a part of community building. So you can help people for profit and help people non-profit. You have exercising, you have eating healthy, And even preparing healthy meals takes time. So these are quadrant 2 activities. You have journaling, prayer, meditation, spending time with people you care about, finding a hobby or an area to express yourself, giving back in the community, making preventative appointments, making a schedule, planning, finding role models, or seeking wise counsel. But all of these things take time. And so your values will dictate how much percentage of your time you should be spending on each of these different activities. And this isn't a total complete list. This list can grow and be added to. There's more quadrant 2 things that you can do than this. So now this is the important part. The important part is to take some time and see how you currently spend your day. If you go through this entire training and you don't actually self-analyze, then this is all just going to be theory. But what you really need to do is to take a moment and see how you actually spend your day. When you wake up, what's the first thing that you do? How long does that take you? And then what do you do after that? And how long does that usually take you? And just see a rough draft of what your normal day looks like. And you can have several versions of it. Maybe Monday looks different on average than Tuesday. And so you can do a rough draft of Monday, a rough draft of Tuesday, and kind of see how you're currently spending your time. This works very similar to doing a budget, because first you want to start out by seeing what your normal spending habits are. And so you might think that you're spending $100 on entertainment, but maybe you're actually spending $200 on entertainment. And the same thing with your time. You might think that you're only spending 30 minutes in the morning to groom and to get ready, but maybe once you go back and do your actuals, maybe you might realize that you're actually spending a lot more time on that, and maybe you don't actually want to. Maybe in the long term, as far as where your goals are, your long-term goals, you're spending your time in a way that's inconsistent with that. And that's why creating a schedule is so important. Now, here's an example of a schedule that has a high current allocated percentage of time devoted towards quadrant 4 activities. So this is an example. Let's say you wake up in the morning and you have a habit of some sort. Maybe you smoke, or maybe you wake up and you eat a Twinkie, or you eat a cinnamon roll, or whatever the case is. Or maybe you watch porn. Maybe you have a habit like that. You wake up and you watch porn, or you wake up and you look at an Instagram model that doesn't wear many clothes. So, then you spend 20 minutes doing that first thing in the morning, and after that you take a shower, and that takes you 30 minutes. Then you get dressed, and that takes you 30 minutes, because you have to sort through, you have to go through all your clothes to find out what you're looking for, because you don't fold your clothes. I mean, I can't judge anybody. I can say I've been there, and I go there from time to time. So this is why it's so important to go and rehash all these things. Then after that, you drive to work, and that takes you an hour, and then you spend your 8 to 9 hours working, and then you go to the drive-thru on the way home, and that takes you your drive to the drive-thru and going home takes you an hour and 20 minutes, and then you get home, you watch some TV for 2 hours, you talk on the phone for another 2 hours, and then you go to sleep for 8 hours. Now, this is a day that is monopolized by pleasure activities. And like I said, we can all end up here at some point, and we can end up here for just days, just a short period of time, or we can end up here for a long season of life. And as a result of having a life that's monopolized by quadrant 4, then we're not making the progress that we want to see either in our business or in our personal life. And so it's really important to notice a habit or a monopoly like this and to address it. The quadrant 4 example is quite common, and you'd be surprised how many people will come and they have a goal like they want to start a business, or they have a goal like they want to lose weight or something like that, but they have a quadrant 4 monopolized schedule, and they spend almost all of their time on quadrant 4 activities. So you have to analyze your schedule to identify quadrant 4 activities that you could cut back on. If you sit down and you write down your schedule, you can highlight those times when you notice you spend a lot of time on quadrant 4 activities. You can be more watchful of when those temptations step in to do more quadrant 4 types of things, and possibly avoid them more or sacrifice them more and replace them with other things. Here is an example of a schedule that is monopolized by quadrant 3. This person wakes up, they check their phone right away, they check the text messages, they check social media and their email, and it takes them about 30 minutes first thing in the morning because they're checking their phone, their text messages, their email. Then they take their shower for 20 minutes, they check their phone again for 5 minutes, they do their hair, they brush their teeth, they make sure their makeup is done, or they make sure their beard is shaved nicely. They head to work. Their travel time takes them about 30 minutes, and they're texting on their way to work. So they're not focused. They work from 8 to 5. They're texting and checking their phone throughout the day, checking those notifications, checking that social media, and then they drive home. That takes them another 30 minutes, and but while they're driving home, they check their phone and they notice that they got a coupon, so they decide to stop to get food. That takes them 30 minutes. Then they talk on the phone once they get home for 3 hours, and they sleep, and that's their entire day. So again, this is so common and so easy to slip into because our phones are so important in our lives nowadays that you might sleep with your phone under your pillow or with your phone right next to you on your maybe you have a nightstand, or maybe you have a flat area on your bed somewhere that you can position your phone close to you so you can just easily grab it when you wake up in the morning. You could also use your phone as your alarm, so it's easy for you to pick it up and then get trapped into checking those notifications. Now, not to say that checking notifications is bad, because maybe you do have a lot of things that you're responsible for. But as far as if it's the best thing to do first thing in the morning, before you really have clarity about your goals and before everything else, is it really the best thing to do? That's my challenge for you to think about. It's so common and easy to slip into this cycle, and before you know it, the whole day is gone and you really didn't think about what it is that you wanted to get accomplished in that day. You just kind of were rolling with the punches and rolling with a routine that did not transition you to all of the future goals that you have. So this is really easy to slip into. Now, here is a quadrant 1 schedule example. So you wake up and your spouse is yelling at you because you left the oven on overnight. So you guys are yelling for 30 minutes about how you did that again, and that's unsafe, and you could be lighting the house on fire. Then you go from that and you take a shower that takes you 20 minutes. Then you check your phone and you realize that the bill collectors are calling you about repossessing your car, and that takes you 5 minutes. And then you groom, you do your hair, you do you shave, you do your makeup, all of that stuff, and it takes you about an hour. Then you head to work. And while you're on your way to work, you're negotiating with bill collectors on the way. And then you work from 8 to 5, but you're texting and checking your phone throughout the day. Then you drive home. That takes you 30 minutes. And on your way home, your car broke down, and so you had to wait for roadside assistance. That takes you 1 hour and 30 minutes. Then you had your car towed home because you didn't have the money to get it fixed, and that takes you another 30 minutes. Then you try to find alternative transportation because you still got to get to work tomorrow. So you're calling around here and there and everywhere. That takes you another 3 hours. And then after all of that, you go to sleep. So this is a quadrant 1 day. It's just so stressful. And you don't want this to go on for very long because it's just so high stress. You're going from fire to fire. And until you realize it, you can be going from fire to fire for long seasons of time or even years. And so what you have to do, whether you find that your schedule is monopolized in any of these ways, is you have to find time. You have to find opportunities to replace quadrant 1, 3, and 4 time blocks with quadrant 2 time blocks. So this is a look at the quadrant 2 schedule, and everyone is going to have their own comfortable harmony, what their perfect schedule would look like. We each can make a schedule that helps us to feel good about accomplishing our life goals, but this is just an example of a schedule that's monopolized by quadrant 2 activities. So they wake up at 7 in the morning. They spend 30 minutes meditating, praying, read. Then you write your to-do list or make your daily goals. This is your morning ritual. So you write your to-do list, you make your daily goals. That takes you about 15 minutes to really get clear about what you want to get accomplished that day. Then you go on a little walk or jog or maybe do a YouTube video exercise, and that takes you 15 minutes. And then you eat breakfast, and that takes you another 30 minutes. Then you check your phone. You still do those quadrant 3 activities. So you check your phone, you check the notifications, check your Facebook, but your mind is already in sync. You already know you don't have forever to check your phone. You have a set amount of time because you've set your goals. And then you go and take your shower, but you're disciplined about how much time you're spending on each thing because you know what you want to accomplish for the day. And then you groom. So you're doing your hair, making sure you're presentable, making sure you're giving off a good image, and you do that for 45 minutes. And then you do some house chores, just making sure that everything around the house is intact. And then you spend 3 hours helping people for profit, whether you do it at your job or whether you do it in your business. You're helping people for profit. You might be doing your video, creating an outline for a new course. You might be doing your blog post or doing research for it, or delivering your service or delivering your product, shipping out products, whatever that is that you do to help people for profit. Then you take your lunch for 30 minutes and you come back and you help people for profit for another 4 hours. Then you stop working, you have your family time and your dinner. You spend 3 hours with your family. You guys sit down and have dinner together and get to talk and have those conversations and build those relationships. Then you take some time after you have dinner with your family. You put your kids to bed and you might have a conversation with a friend on the phone, with some friends, just to make sure everybody's families are doing well. You decide to sit down and read for 30 minutes and you go to sleep. This is a quadrant 2 example, schedule example. And so success rides on the back of good and consistent routines. Successful people aren't necessarily the most spontaneous. They're not necessarily the most daring. They're not the ones that are always doing something different that you can't forecast. They're often the most consistent, reliable, stable, and devoted to their routines. And that's what makes them successful. So what we want to do is go from a quadrant 3 or a quadrant 1 or a quadrant 4 schedule and reallocate that time to more quadrant 2 activities. So we want to observe, our practices and decide if there's more room for you to replace more quadrant 1, 3, and 4 activities with quadrant 2. And this will translate into your personal and your business success. Now, you can actually sit down and write down your schedule. You can write down when you wake up on Mondays, what you usually do. You wake up, you check your phone, you brush your teeth, you just write down how it usually goes. And you don't have to write how much time it takes you, but just do a rough draft of what that looks like. And then you can highlight the problem areas, the areas where you see that you can possibly replace some activities and put in more quadrant 2 activities. And then you can put that into somewhere like Google Calendars and set some target amounts of time that you spend on each task. So for example, maybe you currently wake up and you currently wake up and check your phone. But you want to switch that out with waking up and doing a morning meditation. So what you decide to do is put that in your phone, the Google Calendar. So if you pick it up, then it'll say meditation. Or you can even set an app that'll make sure you can't even go to your social media or whatever the case is during that time. And you can do what's called replacement challenges. James Clear, he is a habit change expert. He has a blog where he talks about changing habits. And he talks about how it takes about 30 days to pick up a new habit if you're consistently trying to do that new habit. So if you decide today that instead of waking up and looking at my phone in the morning, I'm going to set parameters in place so my phone is not even near me in the morning, so that if I do go to my phone, it'll not even allow me to do the things I normally do. And instead, I'm going to spend time on meditation, prayer, Bible reading, or something of that sort. So you can decide to set up those type of parameters in place, and then but you want to give yourself some time to adapt that habit. A lot of times we're like really hard on ourselves if the first day or the second day you wake up and you did the old habit. But it doesn't happen like that. Usually when we're changing out habits, whether it's waking up 1 hour earlier in the morning or deciding to eat a salad every lunch instead of eating something sweet. It takes time to adapt those habits and to put the correct parameters in place to where it works perfectly for you to adapt those new habits. So you can decide to replace quadrant 4 activities with business building activities, and it may take time to make that new normal, but don't give up. Keep pushing. You might slip, but continue to put effort in to adapt those new habits. Set a challenge for yourself, maybe a 7-day challenge to only do this new habit, and continue to challenge yourself even more. Don't start with a long term, like say I'm going to exercise every day for the full year. Start with something small so then you can feel a sense of accomplishment along the way. So routines have a compound effect. A lot of times we want that instant gratification to know that if we start a routine today, go exercise today, I'm going to see that I lost a pound right away. But it doesn't necessarily happen like that. And it doesn't matter what area you look for that change in. If you replace quadrant 1, 3, or 4 activities with a better alternative today, it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll see results today. Regardless of what activity you choose to replace, there's going to be habit change, skill development, and the normal compound effect. And Darren Hardy talks about the compound effect in his book, The Compound Effect. So this is true with losing weight, with building muscle, with improving relationships, with growing a business. All of these benefit from the compound effect. You decide to replace a quadrant 1, 3, or 4 habit with a quadrant 2 habit today, and you start to implement that habit every day. Then you will start to see results from that habit, usually at the 6-month mark, and going forward, the results will just compound and get bigger and bigger and bigger. So whether the new habit is to do something that drives income, or whether the new habit is to do something that lowers weight or get rid of debt, all of those, the activities associated with those things, take some time to see the results. So sometimes you have to make sacrifices to get to the next step. And I love the quote that Dave Ramsey has, and you've probably seen me say it before, but you live like no one else so you can live like no one else. And really, you're sacrificing now so that you can reap those benefits later. And that's what he's saying there. So it's really important to be disciplined about your time so that you can look back on your life one day without any regrets. So regrets is really one of the worst feelings that you can have. If you're intentional, you can minimize that regret. You may not realize how your small recurring decisions, those small recurring choices that you are making, can have an impact. You might not realize that the first week or the first month, but over time you'll definitely notice. And I like to, another really cool thing about adopting good habits is that other people see you doing those good habits, and it encourages them to do good things too. So it has a domino effect when you live out that example. So if you enjoyed this, please like, follow, subscribe, click the bell icon so you can be notified of upcoming videos. Leave your comments below this video, and I would be really happy to talk to you more about prioritization. So I really appreciate you watching this video, and if you are looking for help with your online business startup, definitely stop by howtoentrepreneur.org, and you'll see that I have a coaching program for startup entrepreneurs. I've teamed up with a highly credible software company, software and education company, to coach startup entrepreneurs, and I also create courses and valuable information for you to help grow your business from idea to full-time income, and from full-time income to enterprise. So definitely stop by howtoentrepreneur.org and check out all of the resources there. I'd be happy to work with you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Have a great day. Bye.